What are some creepy facts about human nature? If you happen to have brain injury, there is a condition that makes you unable to recognize objects around you. Like, you will see a fork, the colors, and the shape of it, but you can't know how to use it, if it's edible or not, etc. Pretty scary thing to imagine. I forgot how to read once. Literally. Even things that I fully knew what they said, like the label of the coffee creamer on my desk, I couldn't read them. I saw the letters and the words, but I couldn't even recognize them as letters and words. That scared the hell out of me. I can't imagine losing a higher function, like being unable to identify what a fork is and what it is used for. But the worst, in my mind, is people who can no longer recognize faces. Learned memories, i.e., people 100% sure they remember things which actually never happened, but were told many times by media, memes, and others. I observed this for a certain episode which happened less than 10 years ago. Everyone whom I asked witnessed it themselves personally, but they all clearly remember it in a way it was presented in memes and jokes and not how they actually saw it happen. Look up bystander effect and mob mentality. There's another one I forgot the name of as well that's similar, where people will do terrible things they are not comfortable with when a person in authority is giving them orders / saying it's okay. It's scary how easy it is for good people to do terrible things or ignore terrible situations they themselves have the convenient power to fix. Your frontal cortex breaks you via your decisions. It's where all the critical thinking goes through the manual computer of dopamine pathways. Ever wonder why decisions are so crazy in your dreams? Or why it makes a little too much sense in the moment? Frontal cortex is off during REM. Grandma didn't abandon having a filter with age. The decay of her frontal cortex is no longer preventing her from saying awful or embarrassing things. Bump your head in some kind of accident? Hope it wasn't the front, because if so, your chances of committing crime just rose more than 100%. After a back surgery, your organs might have been moved to perform certain parts of the surgery. The doctors don't move your organs back to their original place. This funny feeling you get after the surgery is your organs moving themselves back to their original place. Yes, they are capable of that. I don't know what this is called, but this is when I realized that human beings are extremely selfish, and I was equally horrible and a part of this. I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, around 8 years old, I guess. So when school got over, it was the last day or something, and all the kids in my class, about 40 to 50 kids, ran out the door at the same time. One of the girls in my class fell over. Kids kept trampling over her, and some of us noticed that. But if we stopped to help her or bent down, we would also get trampled over. So we just ran and left. I still feel so bad about that. Thankfully, nothing happened to her, and she just scraped her knees and elbow. But I feel so bad about it till today. There's another comment on here about internal voice, about that. From my experience, I've noticed that people who think mostly visually / emotionally, and people who think by mostly talking to themselves and questioning everything, do not have a very good chance of understanding each other. And one person might get sick of the other one because of how they think or how they like to have conversations. Example, someone who likes to ask lots of questions versus someone who wants to get the idea across with as little thought as possible. My example isn't the best, but I've had conversations about this with people, and as a person who thinks mostly visually, there are people who cannot understand why or how I think the way I do. My roommate likes to talk loud about what he's thinking while he's organizing or figuring something out, i.e., okay, so if I put this here, then it will fit with that, but it's always just little bits. It annoys the hell out of me. It's like having to read aloud every sign you pass to be able to understand it. Sociopaths just lack the empathy. People who are normal have empathy, but they have all of the traits of sociopath too. In fact, our empathy can drive a normal person to commit horrible crimes. Properly motivated, our emotions can cause us to do things much worse than a sociopath. Kick someone's dog, also their kid, punch their grandmother, do those things and see people become something to fear. You aren't you. What you see when you look in the mirror is just a protective casing created by your parents mixing their DNA together. What you are is actually just your brain, eyes, and nervous system. If you want to get more into it, your thoughts are just your brain dictating what it thinks is right or wrong in order to keep itself alive for as long as possible. Human nature? The bystander effect is creepy as hell. For context, I'm a psychologist, so this is a thing everyone in psychology will study at some point. Multiple studies were conducted to gather information on what it is and why people act the way they do. Long story short, if somebody was screaming bloody murder because they were being stabbed or shot or even being kidnapped, it won't matter if it's happening in a large crowd or not. In most cases, if everybody sees it happening but nobody does anything, everyone around will go on with their lives and not bother helping the victim. There's around a 27%, give 1 to 3% higher or lower, chance that someone will react to the situation and intervene. Statistically, that's very low. The fact that most people would do absolutely nothing while witnessing a horrific event is terrifying. The bystander effect is even stronger if nobody around has any association with the victim. The feeling of impending doom is a real, legitimate medical symptom. It can precede a major event like heart attack, anaphylaxis, cardiac arrest, seizure, etc. In the hospital, if you have a patient that's looking kinda iffy and they mention feeling dread, feeling like something bad is about to happen, or other related signs, we take it very seriously. And I roll the code cart into their room right the away. I am a former nurse. I always knew when I was going into a shift that was going to go sideways at some point. I referred to it as my feeling of impending doom. Some parasites make humans more attractive so they can pass on their parasites to the next person. Like bacteria, parasites can alter our behaviors to be more attractive and sociable to spread the parasites to others. Unlike bacteria or sudden infections that alter our behaviors momentarily, parasites sit dormant in our bodies and it lives with us for all of our lives, secretly pulling the strings. The uncanny valley phenomenon suggests that we've had to fear something in human history that looked human but wasn't. Edit. I'm talking things that are almost human, but not quite. Corpses don't creep me out as much as duplicate horror or lifelike dolls. I figured this has to do with avoiding dead bodies. A body in a casket likely had work done by the mortician to make it look more lifelike so the viewers don't get all weirded out. Once you are dead for a minute, your face looks very weird and mannequin-like. Dead bodies are disease vectors, so avoiding or at least being very cautious around them, it keeps you safe. Children are, more or less, sociopaths. We teach them empathy, kindness, and sharing. There are several psychologists that hold the belief that in a societal breakdown scenario, children will actually fare better than adults once they arm themselves, because adults will have a harder time murdering another human. Meanwhile, children whose brains and emotional response centers have not fully formed will be much more able to mercilessly kill others for survival or supplies. We all have our flaws and quirks, but there are some aspects of human behavior that are just plain creepy. Here are some creepy facts about human nature that will make you shudder. We are drawn to the macabre. Whether it's horror movies, true crime podcasts, or haunted houses, many people have a fascination with the darker side of life. It's thought that this interest stems from our primal need to understand and prepare for danger. We can be cruel to animals. While many of us love our pets and consider them part of the family, there are also people who are capable of unspeakable acts of cruelty towards animals, from puppy mills to animal testing. It's a sad fact that some humans view animals as nothing more than objects to be used and abused. We're easily influenced by authority. Studies like the infamous Milgram experiment have shown that humans can be easily influenced by authority figures, even if it means causing harm to others. This is a disturbing reminder of how easily we can be manipulated. We are capable of extreme violence. While most of us would never dream of harming another person, there are those who are capable of extreme violence. From serial killers to war crimes, it's a chilling reminder that human beings can be both the best and the worst of creatures. The human brain has evolved to tell the difference between humans and humanoid creatures. For example, you see someone walking down the road and go, "Oh, that's a person," but your brain sets off alarm bells because something just isn't right about this person. From the last time I looked this up, scientists have no idea why we evolved to have this mechanism, but we do. It's very disturbing. The eyes have a separate immune system than the rest of the body. If your body's immune system realizes your eyes exist, it'll attack the eyes and reject them from the body as it would a virus. Because the eyes are not only incredibly vulnerable to infection due to the moisture, they're also a direct connection to our brain. This necessitates an additional layer of immune security. A separate immune system has several advantages. Firstly, pathogens cannot travel from the eyes to the body or the body to the eye. You wouldn't want a stomach virus to make you go blind. A normal immune response in the eye would mean swelling, which would destroy the eye. The eye has several different layers of security specifically because they are so important. The call of the void. This occurs when humans are on high places, like rooftops or cliffs, and get the urge to jump. It's actually pretty common. I heard Dr. Carl on a podcast say something to the effect that your brain is constantly playing out hypothetical scenarios, and sometimes they slip out, coming out as actual thoughts rather than your brain trying to be prepared for various situations. Our brains suck for modern culture. Every time you remember something, it's not 100% the same as the last time you remembered it. We process things serially, have health problems from sitting in a desk for work all day. We have emotions that make it difficult to be what is considered decent 24/7. I could go on, but basically, we are not made for our modern culture. We are one of the most violent things on earth, yet so social. We legit will help even our enemies when needed. It's creepy because we will easily team up and go back to killing each other right afterwards. We are a death species and only really choose to grow or develop when our personal survival is threatened with actual extinction. The worst part is that when we do grow, we have an extremely short cultural/societal memory. We are hyper-tribal, easily divided, and exploited by our own. I was taught in my youth that giving to the point of self-neglect was proper if people needed it more than you. Then, I would be upset when my expectations of others to do the same fell short in regards to me and things I needed help with. It wasn't until years later I realized that due to the laws of attraction, people who are generous givers mostly attract people who are selfish takers. After some time, I realized I must be diligent about identifying and setting boundaries to those people before they bleed me dry. With the same analysis, I've tried to align myself with like-minded people and found a nice slice of happiness with a good group of people. Being someone with autism has taught me that most people will tear you apart if you are different. It doesn't matter what it is. You have a trait that some consider a disease or undesirable. They will be unjust and biased against you, and they will take every opportunity to discriminate against you. Some people pretty much justify bashing people on social media with honest opinions. They like to take comments out of context on social media and make outlandish theories. Yet, they just refuse to acknowledge it because they pick the narrative that suits them while they ignore the truth. There's two parts. If we as a species do not make a very swift move towards truly long-term thinking, we are headed for, I won't say an extinction level event, but it'll certainly look that way while it's happening. And it doesn't matter whether the Earth does it to us or if we do it to each other. One way or another, the human race is reaching the limits of its ability to survive its own selfishness. If we do not make that shift, we are very, very boned. We will not make that shift. Every cell in the human body regenerates in about 7 years. So, nearing every 7 years, you're an entirely new person. We still don't know 100% why we sleep. We know that we get tired and we feel better after sleeping, but we haven't seen a definite medical or biological need that sleep actually fulfills for our bodies.
Let's start off with a difficult question. How do you define reality? What is truly real? Is it simply a case of what we can see? If something is known as fact and can be proven to exist, does this make it real? Is reality just the world around us, or is there something more? The goal of these questions isn't to make you question every part of the world around you or to question whether or not we are all living in a computer simulation. No, you're asked this to help you understand reality. Because first of all, we aren't living in a simulation. We're living in a sitcom. There is a wide-ranging debate on what the most powerful and dangerous SCPs ever encountered are, but there is no denying the ever-present danger of SCP-3812. This Keter-class entity is regarded as highly aggressive by the O5 Council, especially as it has only ever been partially contained, never fully. The true scope of its abilities is currently unknown, and any available information on SCP-3812 is kept classified and secure by the Foundation. Needless to say, this entity poses a direct threat not only to the SCP Foundation, but to the very fabric of reality itself. Contained within the file for SCP-3812 is an excerpt from an article by one Dr. Robert Scranton, titled Supersession and the Echelon of Reality. In this article, Dr. Scranton posits a theory about the nature of reality, and understanding him is the first step towards understanding SCP-3812. His recursive stack theory states that there are different layers to reality, but also that no single universe is real. An easy way to think of it is to imagine a sitcom. Any sitcom you can envision will do. Between us and the fictional world of a sitcom, there are multiple observable stacked universes. Firstly, our universe, the real world as we experience it, forms the baseline. So imagine this sitting at the top of the stack. Next down in the stack comes the sitcom, a fictional universe filled with characters, which fits below our universe. Then think of what is fiction within the fiction of the sitcom. Perhaps another television show, one that only exists in the world of the sitcom but not in our own. This is the recursive stack, infinitely layered universes, and it is crucial you can envision and remember this model. Dr. Scranton's theory suggests that any universe, even our own, could potentially exist as a fictional narrative within another, wider universe. This wider universe, in which ours is a fiction, could also itself be a narrative within an even wider universe stacked above it, and so on. It's interesting to picture reality this way, isn't it? In fact, I'm willing to bet that you're wondering, maybe there's a universe above ours, or even one above that. Would the universe right at the top of the stack be the truly real world? And what if you could travel between each stacked reality? If you're asking any of those questions, then congratulations. You sound exactly like SCP-3812. SCP-3812 was previously known as Sam Howell. While little is known about his life, Sam was, as far as anyone knew, regarded as a fairly ordinary human being, until his death in 1996, shortly after which Sam rose from his grave and disappeared. It is unknown whether SCP-3812 simply imitated the form of Sam Howell or if they are one and the same, as this entity has been known to have the ability to change forms at will, making it hard for the Foundation to track it. It does usually maintain a humanoid appearance, however this has deteriorated somewhat over numerous decades. By now you may have already gathered that the extent of SCP-3812's abilities don't end at shapeshifting. This SCP is a powerful, aggressive, reality-altering entity. Cast your mind back to the recursive stack. SCP-3812 is able to travel upwards through these stacked universes, creating untold chaos using its plethora of world-bending abilities. As far as the SCP Foundation can tell, 3812's sole intention is to become an omnipotent force existing above any and all possible universes. In other words, the top of the stack. Aside from the ability to change shape, SCP-3812's control and alteration of a reality around it is achieved by its long list of latent abilities. This entity is capable of feats far beyond that of normal humans, such as teleportation, telekinesis, and telepathy. However, SCP-3812 is also able to directly manipulate any and all aspects of reality. It can influence and alter observable forces around us, for example the manipulation of matter, energy, weather, and even gravity and other laws of physics as we know them. But the creature can also warp reality on further levels. It's able to erase people, objects, or even concepts to the point where human beings lose virtually all memory of them. With the danger that an entity this powerful poses to our reality, It's not surprising that the SCP Foundation would attempt to nullify its abilities. One attempt by the Foundation involved another unknown SCP, which created an anti-metaphysical field. This was done in the hopes that it would strip SCP-3812 of its reality warping abilities. However, the entity was unfazed. The containment attempt failed, and the remains of the unknown SCP instead resulted in the creation of SCP-239. As for the SCP-3812 entity's own origin, that is still largely unknown. But there does exist a message on a secure server in the SCP Foundation's O5 command, seemingly from another entity belonging to a reality stacked higher above our own, that appears to have created a reality much further down, one that SCP-3812 inhabited. And now it seems that SCP-3812 is climbing up the stack. There is a trade-off of sorts to the abundance of powers SCP-3812 possesses. The entity is in an almost constant state of ascension through different stacked universes, climbing higher and higher, believing every reality beneath it to be a fiction. The creature has developed multiple severe mental conditions that seem to be a direct result of overexposure to different layers of reality. This includes an advanced form of Enigman-Viator schizophrenia complex, which often manifests in extreme symptoms within the creature. SCP-3812 has been known to suffer from paranoia, dysphoria, depression, and inability to control its emotions, as well as hearing voices, seeing things that do not exist, and possessing multiple personalities. While the creature is usually aimless, SCP-3812 has been known to have random outbursts that can cause anomalies within local space and time. But thanks to it experiencing so many different layers of reality, traveling upwards through what it perceives to be fictional universes, SCP-3812 displays difficulty in separating what is real and what is imagined. In fact, reality and fiction have become one and the same to SCP-3812, because as far as it is concerned, they literally are the same. Each new reality it inhabits is just fiction for the reality stacked above it. So then how are we supposed to contain or neutralize such a powerful reality-altering creature that cannot distinguish between what is real and what is fictional? The Foundation knows that its own procedures to keep SCP-3812 contained would be ineffective. This entity, by its nature, cannot be contained. Any attempt to keep it locked away would easily be undone by any one of its numerous powers to warp reality. Locking it in a cement box at the bottom of the ocean would be pointless. It could teleport out, or turn its cell into nothing but dust. Putting it in a vat of acid to endlessly burn it would just result in it turning that acid to harmless water or air. SCP-3812 can manipulate events throughout time, and so it could easily prevent itself from ever being contained. It is even possible that any individuals, even Foundation staff who may have previously tried to lock the creature up, now no longer exist thanks to SCP-3812's abilities. And there would be no way to determine this, since we wouldn't be able to remember that the person had ever been in our reality. The Foundation's best hope is to keep SCP-3812 where it is, and hope it remains docile. If they are able to keep it away from large population centers, then the risk of 3812 having any sort of psychic influence over citizens or warping reality and causing the deaths of millions or even billions is at least reduced. But of course, it is never fully gone. On at least one occasion, SCP-3812 has caused a truly catastrophic event. For some reason, SCP-3812 decided to turn itself into a star, spinning endlessly. And it did so. Numerous anomalous occurrences took place across the world. Most notably, SCP-3812 caused the Foundation's nuclear warheads to detonate, spreading harmful radioactive material into the atmosphere. Additionally, the population of New Zealand began to sporadically disappear and reappear, looping back and forth between existence and non-existence for a period of around 5 hours. It was during this world-ending scenario that SCP-3812, still at the center of its star form, was recorded ranting, its split personalities arguing. One of the creature's personalities claimed it was unmaking the world as an act of revenge against someone. It stated that it believed, "Existence is a joke. The narrative abandoned us to be miserable, and we are breaking the narrative." Its other half mentioned another entity known only as Ben, and seemed to imply that this entity was responsible for SCP-3812's creation in a reality stacked above this one. According to the more rational of 3812's two halves, this Ben entity deemed us unfit to rest peacefully, to slip into the darkness quietly. He made a game of us. It then went on to convince this other half that destroying this reality just to slight Ben would be pointless. There would always be another, stacked on top infinitely.
So why does this narrative mean anything to you?
It asked.
It is one of an eternity to others. It is not special. It is not particular.
The two sides of SCP-3812 argued with each other, one wanting to destroy all of reality to spite Ben, driven mad by witnessing trillions upon trillions of universes stacked atop each other. The other half of 3812 saw peace for itself, ascending above these infinitely stacked universes, finally reaching the top and becoming free. Not a god, a star rising in the east, rising away from this all until we are little more than a memory of a song.
It will be lonely,
the other half of the creature replied. We'll have each other, SCP-3812's other personality said.
I'm afraid,
said the one intent on destruction. I am too, the other reassured it. But that is no reason to destroy this narrative. Eventually, SCP-3812's personalities reached agreement. They both left the narrative they were currently in, presumably traveling upwards to one stacked above our own, while simultaneously remaining in this universe. Still a danger. Let go of this world. Let him rewrite it back to what it was. We aren't part of this anymore. Shortly after this event, reality shifted once more, and the entire world reverted back to how it had been before. Records of the end-of-the-world scenario that had occurred were retained by high-level administrators and the O5 Council, perhaps as a reminder of the destructive capabilities of the creature, a warning of its potential to change this reality and any stacked below or above it. Fortunately, since this incident, SCP-3812 has remained in its docile, aimless state, no longer actively hostile to anyone that approaches it. It has kept its amorphous star-like shape, and is still very much able to create disruptions and anomalies in reality. Despite keeping SCP-3812 constantly monitored at its current location in the South Pacific Ocean, the SCP Foundation knows that, at any time, this entity could trigger yet another global catastrophe, causing massive damage to planet Earth, its population, and beyond that, tearing our reality itself asunder. So we all just better hope our narrative remains worthwhile to SCP-3812's better half.
アブノーマルクラスになったイルマの最初の授業は飛行レースだが、あえて危険なコースを選んだサブノックは、これがカナキリの王さ。このままでは魔王になる前にウヌは死ぬ。
魔王を目指す者。
ちなみにイルマを乗せたこの巨大な鳥はいろいろあって、イルマがついさっき足の怪我を治してあげた会長。どうやらイルマに懐いているようである。
もしかしてこのままゴールまで連れてってくれるつもりなのかな。こっちはまずいよ。だからそっちはちょっと。
抜かった。このままではウヌは死ぬ。カナキリの王さ、その名の通りカナを着ているがごとき感情さ。サブノック家系能力武器創生。噛んでいる物質と同質武器を作り出すことができるのだ。こんなところで負けるわけにはいかぬ。ウヌは
ウヌは魔王にならねばならぬのだ。
魔王予言の書。かの者あまねく衆お配下に。
いいか三郎、お前は魔王になるべく生まれたのだ。我が家系の悲願を果たせ。
宿命。
さらばだ三郎、いつか魔王の座をかけて戦おう。
兄
因縁。
兄様、どうか魔王になって絶対ですよ。
約束。そんな理由は一切ないわ。兄は大戻し、妹は元気だ。ウヌが魔王を目指す理由はただそれが一番かっこいいからよ。悪魔に生まれたからにはその頂点に立つのがかっこいいのだ。あいつのようなあんな上を目指す意志を持たないかっこ悪い悪魔にはならない。ウヌは後悔などせん。野望に従いここに来た。ウヌは最後まで自分の意志を貫いたのだ。イルマ、何を。主、なんでこんなところに。
なんでって、サブノック君が見えたからとっさに。
もしかしてカナキリの長の子供か。
長？これがカナキリの長？長の子供？
チャンス、今のうちに攻撃を。
長さん、お子さんの足はもう大丈夫ですよ。気が立ってイライラしてたのはお子さんの怪我のせいだったんですね。あ、僕ら何もしませんからね。
何を言っている。今がチャンスだ。
ね。置いて。
しかし
早く。
王様、神戸を。
いやー、そんなご丁寧に。いえいえ、こちらこそ。よかったですね。
これが特待生イルマ。なんという悪魔だ。
まだそんなに飛んだら危ないよ。
いい加減そろそろ誰かゴールしてもいいものだが。
イルマ様。イルマ様はいずこに。
1位はお前か。
ゴールゴール。
これが2位なのか。
お前はもう一度スタートから自分で飛んでこい。
ちなみにクララはレース中ほとんどアスモデウスの背中に乗っていただけである。
あれ、イルマチいないね。
とっくにゴールなさっていると思っていたのに。
遅いわね、あの二人。
イルマチ迷子になった
もう待つこともない。しっかりに授業は終了だ。ランクの発表を開始する。
待て、イルマ様がまだいらしてない。
戻ってこぬ者は見捨てるしかない。あれはカナキリの長。
あれが
なぜここにカナキリの谷から出てくるとは。下がってろ貴様ら。
おーいみんな
イルマチとキンキラ君。
イルマ様。
これよりランクの発表を始める。これはランクフクロウだ。貴様らの行動をずっと監視考察していた。
今日は鳥ばっかりだな。
鳥鳥だよね。
ちなみにあれも鳥じゃねえ。
話を続ける。彼の胸の袋に手を入れればこのようにランクのバッジを授けてくれる。そこの最下位のクズどもは一番最後な。
やーやーい。
見せしめだからな。せいぜい笑われたり小石をぶつけられるがいい。へ
いいっす。
え。よし、では一列に並べ。
屈辱。
まあまあ、長さんを連れて戻ったってことで退学にはならなかったんだしさ。
まあさっきの皆の顔は見ものだったな。
うんうん。
イルマよ、今回のことはウヌ一人では成し得なかったことだ。改めて助けてくれたことに礼を言う。参ったぞイルマ。
え？
これまでの非礼を詫びよう。主はすごいやつだ。そして今日から我がライバルだ。
ライバル？
共に魔王の座を競おうではないか。
え？魔王の座って僕はそんなつもりじゃ。
おい、そこのクズどももさっさと後ろに並べ。
はい。すげえダレスだ。
さすが入試首席。
1年なら普通はアレフ、よくてベトなのに。悪魔には1から10のランクがあり、数字が少ないほど弱く、数字が増えるほど強大になる。
まあ奴は妥当だな。しかし他も意外と悪くない。
待て待て待て待て、なぜ貴様がギメルなのだ。おかしいだろう。
控えおろう。
私の方がハイランクだバカ者。
レース2位だからな。運も実力のうちか。
釈然とせん。
サブノックがベトでござるか。
もっと高いと思ってたわ。
あんなに先生と戦ってたのにな。
でもレースは最下位だったし。
ベトか。まあよい。ウヌはさっき一度死んだような身。これくらいではへこたれぬ。ここから這い上がり魔王を目指せばよい。
最後のやつさっさと引け。
はい。
いよいよイルマくんの番。
何のバッジを引くのかね。
兵とか素敵。
そんなあなたが素敵。
サブノク君はすごいな。ちゃんと将来の夢があって。僕はこの先 この魔界でどうなるんだろう。
彼また変なもの出したりしてな。
使い魔先生とか。
祝にランクフクロウは厳粛正確。どんなことがあろうと決して動じぬわ。そもそもこのランクフクロウは数百年間泣いたことすらない。泣いた。
ちょまだバッジ取ってない。
イルマ様。
イルマチ、それ何？
それは
魔王予言の書？
いいかいサブロー。魔王様の席は今空席だけど、この本で次の魔王様がどんなお方か予言してるんだよ。
どんなお方なの？
じゃあ最初から読むよ。かの者、あまねく種族を配下に収め、血の契約を結び、万物を癒したも。彼は異教より舞い降りて、右手に黄金に輝くソロモンの指輪を宿す。
まさか黄金の魔王の証、ソロモンの指輪。
釣れないこれ
だってそれ。
落ち着いてください、イルマ様。
いや、感銘すんか。ソロモンの指輪が黒煙を出すなど聞いたことがない。取っていますな。
こうですか。よしよし。
口とか塞げって意味だよ。
よし。
こまり得た。ねんころねんころねんころり。ころりが寝たらほんとにコロコロり。
そうが増えた。そっちの口も塞
あ、でも和んでるぞ。ノリいいな。
げ。歌詞をやろう。写真撮ろう。
楽しむな貴様ら。よし、ウヌに任せ。
近づくと危ないんじゃ。
案ずるな我がライバルよ。こんな黒煙は引っこ抜いてやる。
サブノックだってなぜ。
イルマ様、ここは私が。
デジャブ。
大丈夫です、イルマ様。どうやら魔力を吸われたようですが。私にはこの程度、痛くも痒くも。
被害がすごいよ、アズくん。
おいイルマ、ちょっとよくミス。
先生、大丈夫ですか。
幻覚。いや威嚇か。なるほど、これは粛清対象だ。
こーら、それはダメ。
理事長。
はい、おじいちゃんだよ。もう体がくんたら。今イルマくんの腕ごと吹き飛ばそうとしたでしょ。
イルマ様をそんな。
ねえ、
生徒に危険が及ぶと思ったもので。
こら短期は3期。もう騒音に驚いてきてみれば。
危ない。
よいしょ。おたで。
引っ込んだ。
イルマくんの指輪はね、悪時期の指輪といってね。
悪時期の指輪。
持ち主の魔力を貯めとくマグだけど、中身が少なくなると無差別に魔力を食べちゃうんだ。
魔力を食べる？
でもある程度魔力を食べさせれば無害だよ。かわいそうにお腹を空かせて泣いてたんだね。
あれだけ吸わせても十分に足るほどの魔力を持っているとは。恐るべしサリバン理事長。
しかしこれではランクの測定が。
ああ、そうそう、その指輪一度はめたら外せないから。まあフクロウ君はたまに変なものを出すんだよね。1000年も生きてればレアなパターンもあるって。
レアの一言で片付けるの？
君は人間、ここではかなりレアだしね。
どうされましたか、イルマ様。怪我が痛みますか？
いや、本当大丈夫だから。
そんなこんなで
記念にテピー
イルマたちの初授業もなんとか終了。そして測定不能のイルマのランクは一番下のアレフとなった。
初めて正当な評価をもらった気がする。
バッジをもらわなかったからってどうしてアレフなのだ。イルマ様なのだから淀に決まっているだろう。
イルマチ足換え
ああ、イルマ様に無礼だぞ。貴様なんで同じことを
いろいろあったけど一番下なら目立たないし
と本人は思っているが、
見たか今回。見た。
そのいろいろの部分で目立ちすぎて悪名に拍車がかかったことを彼はまだ知らない。
待ってイルマチ。
イルマ様、この後朝礼がございます。共に行動へ参りましょう。
3人一緒に行こうレッツゴー。
もちろんこんな号外が貼ってあることも彼はまだ知らない。
アスモデウス様が出てる。地面に倒れるいい男。ほんと倒れてても素敵。さすがアスモデウス様ね。イルマさんすごい。
効果斉唱。
ほんとアレフでよかった。これなら目立たずに学校生活も楽しく過ごせるかも。やっぱり効果怖っ。
改めて人間と絶対バレないよう心に誓うイルマであった。
さあ、そろそろゴール地点に行かなきゃ。
だが翼が。
おお。連れてってくれるの？おお、ふわふわ。意外と羽は柔らかいんだね。でもどこを掴めばいいかな。毛を掴んだら痛いよね。
よし来い。安定したな。
岩と綿菓子に挟まれてる感じだ。
行くぞ。
揺れも少なく快適な空の旅だね。